In this video, one of my 100K per month clients gives an incredible presentation on exactly how he has a 4x ROI on his PPC and pay per lead campaigns, all because of his dialed in inbound sales process. And yes, this is another sales presentation, but sales is a game of inches, and in any business, one small tweak in your sales process could make you hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of the year. And plus, this is one of the best sales presentations I've ever heard after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on private coaching. My biggest personal takeaway was one, the level of scripting and detail that goes into every single word that is said. And the objection handling framework truly blew me away, and I implement it right away inside my business. And so look, I know we all love sales and we all think we're the best salesmen there are, but watching this presentation will allow you to close at least one more deal per month or per quarter, which is completely worth the price of admission, which is zero. So all I ask from you is just to take one thing from this video and implement it inside your business. And just a quick fun fact on this is 2 out of 3 corporate plans fail, not because of the actual strategy or the plan itself, but because of the execution. And with that being said, the road has been paved for you to go and close more deals inside your business without spending another dollar just from this channel alone. So do me a favor, watch the video, take notes, and go implement. With that being said, let's get right into the presentation.
My model is really simple. So I want the best quality leads and give them to the best trained salespeople. What I really loved about Wyatt's presentation is he was speaking about complexity, right? And so when you have, like what I did prior, 7 different channels, and they all have different stories, they all have different timelines. You should have different sales processes for each one, depending on what type of marketing channel it is. It does create a lot of complexity. And so this is my attempt to simplify things. I really have one channel into training the best trained salespeople possible so they can convert these leads at a higher level. So you guys can see, so yeah, that's perfect. 2 things, so level up has been a freaking game changer for me. So I was doing really inconsistently. I mean, we did like $300,000 before I joined Level Up, but it was like one deal every 2 months and stuff like it was very inconsistent. So this is kind of a mixture of joining Level Up and then implementing my sales process that I'm doing now, what's called NEPQ. And I'll go into what that looks like, but if you guys can see these KPIs, they're kind of small. I was going qualified lead to total appointments, so how many people actually wanted to hear an offer from me, at 19%. After implementing these changes, it went up to 77%. And then I was closing at 18%, which, you know, a lot of people say it's like not that bad. But just after this I went up to 33%. So if you guys can't see this little thing at the bottom, this is just quarterly change from Q4 to Q1 of this year. My net lead to deal ratio went from 169 to 1 to 15 to 1. So much more profitable business, but also just a lot quieter. So not as much noise, not as many people to train, and that's really my model. So we can go down. So I actually put my P&L on here. I saw you guys were sharing your numbers, so I figured I'd share mine. I bought out business partners at the beginning of this year. So that's why 0 is in for January, but realistically, we think we did about 60K in January and about 80K in February. Half of that went to my old company, half went to the new company, but I basically started over. So all of this stuff you are seeing, like all of the deals that we're doing, these aren't like follow-ups or anything like that. We did 141K in March, 97K in April, 90K in May, 85K in June, and then 109K in July. And I put the P&L there so you can see like we're running at a 40% profit margin. So my whole model is to just keep things simple and keep it quiet. Like that's what I like, you know? I want to talk to people that actually want to sell their houses, and I want to put them in front of salespeople that know how to convert them. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So why did I choose this framework? Kind of just said this, but it's a really high return on time. So I'm not spending time training cold callers, I'm not training texters, I'm not switching out my platforms, I'm not pulling data, I'm not doing any of that. When I pay money for a lead, that lead wants to sell their house. If not, they'll go refund. I'll get a refund on it. Emphasis on sales managers or sales management. So what that allowed me to do is take myself out of, she loved that, take myself out of all of the parts of the business that I was doing. Because we were talking about, like, for example, the group that went before me, the lean group. Is that what you guys? Yeah. Yeah. So like what I really liked about you guys is that you found out what your superpower is and you focus on that. You make it sound really simple, but a lot of people struggle with that, right? So my superpower was sales management. And so how do I take myself out of all of the other things, especially after like buying out business partners, running everything by myself like a lot of you guys do, and just focus on my superpower. So that was what brought me to this. And then the frame that you get to hold when people reach out to you and you have one sales process. So we were getting a lot of, we reach out to people and they say, well, I don't need to sell. You guys reached out to me, give me an offer. It does have a different frame when someone reaches out to you, when you can attract people that asked for your help, right? They asked you to call them. And so we really worked that process. So it is an easier frame. So these are a couple of channels that we use and how they perform. This is our Q1. Q1 we did about $288,000 in revenue total. We spent about $83,000. So we're doing about a 3.5x return on ad spend. Obviously you can make more, you can get a higher return on your ad spend if you do outbound. You can definitely do that. This is a way to kind of lean your business out as far as like your time and really focus on your highest and best use. So a lot of you guys have asked me like, hey, which ones do you use? Which ones are performing? I'm gonna show you guys, you can obviously have this, but which ones I'm still using today that are working in this market because it's always changing, right? Number one, it's been PPC consistently. It's always been PPC. Like if we just look at like any, over a long period, PPCs are best performing. From there, motivated leads is still performing really well. They're just like, they do SEO, they do PPC, things like that. And then Lead Zolo is also performing really well. I don't recommend iSpeed to Lead anymore. Just so you guys know, they've been doing a lot of like SMS and cold calling and charging like $300 a lead. You guys could probably get them for like 40 to 60. 15? Okay. 15. See, I don't know outbound anymore. But yeah, so I don't recommend going to iSpeed to Lead. I don't recommend Web Sharks. But Motivated Leads is doing pretty good. Property Leads and PPC. The biggest thing is figuring out what works in your market. So making sure you're tracking these metrics, your cost per lead, cost per qualified lead, cost per appointment, cost per offer, cost per contract, and cost per deal. Those are the things that you need to look at. And then the most important number is your cost of acquisitions, which is, we really measure as a return on ad spend. But if you're doing outbound, the difference between return on ad spend and cost of acquisition should factor in everything. The employees that you're paying, the management, everything that you spend to get that deal. So we'll go to the next slide. So these are my rules for inbound. These are the golden rules. If you guys aren't doing inbound leads, you need to follow this if you want to be successful. So more than any other lead source, speed to lead and massive follow-up is extremely important. So you need to hit these leads in the first 3 minutes, or you might as well just not even do it. Like if you can't do that right now, I would wait till you can and then start doing this. So they are so much more likely to want to talk to you when they felt the motivation to go fill out a form online to ask you to call them. 10 minutes later, they've moved on. Everybody's a squirrel, right? They're like, ah, shit, now I got to go fix my car. Now I'm worried about that. 10 minutes later, they're done thinking about it. And then the next day, you might as well just write them off. We still do massive follow-up. So the first 7 days, we want to do double dial calls 3 times per day. We just obliterate them with calls and texts. Like we want to know if they want to sell, we change their number every time, double dial call 3 times a day. We do 2 auto texts in those first and 1 email every single day. So we know that by the time, if these people aren't answering in the first 7 days, we typically know that they're not a good lead. And we continue to do this for actually the next 21 days at this rhythm, but the first 7 days is the most important. Second thing, if you're going to do PPL specifically, make sure you're getting refunds on everything. So we have a task set in our CRM for our marketing manager to go through and audit every single lead. And we do that within a week or whatever their refund policy is. So as you guys can see, this is quarterly data. We saved $43,000 just by getting refunds in Q1. So what I like about inbound is I'm only really paying for the people that actually want to talk to me. Everybody else is going to get refunded. Third rule is always refer back to what they would have seen online. It builds instant credibility and instant trust. So make sure that you're always referring back. So for example, if you guys do Lead Zolo leads, they're YouTube leads. So hey, when you saw the ad on YouTube about selling your house off market or maybe like without repairs, like what was it that made you want to look into this further? you're going to not only be able to tell what they saw, why they want to work with you, but you also, it's good to have alignment, your marketing and your sales. Next one.
John, for motivated lead, do you know how, because obviously with lead sales, I understand it's YouTube, but
Yeah.
motivated lead, do you know how they're seeing it?
No, so what I'm going to go over how we actually approach that when we go over our connection phase in the sales process, because they see a lot of different things. They could see like sell my house fast, sell my house without repairs. It could be anything. So we're going to actually go into that. So I went over kind of like really briefly. You guys can talk to me after the marketing stuff. We're really going to focus is the sales stuff, because marketing is relatively easy if you do inbound. It's like put your credit card and just ask them to send you leads, and they'll start sending you leads. If it's PPC, it will get a lot more intricate than that. So like if you do PPC, you want to hire a good manager, but realistically, once you have a good PPC management company, like they should be able to do all of that stuff for you and then start sending you leads. You just need to give them feedback on, hey, these leads are really good, these leads are really bad. This is what's converting into an appointment. And it does take, I would give 6 to 12 months before your PPC campaign is actually like up and running. Like I wouldn't expect good results in the first 6 months, because you kind of have to go big and then start narrow, or vice versa. And it does just take a little bit of time to get it narrowed down. So I've heard a couple of guys say, hey, I tried PPC for 3 months and it didn't work. Like that's expected, right? So this is how I grade my team. I'll send you guys this tracker. So I basically break my sales process up into 6 phases. And if you guys have ever read the Sales Acceleration Formula, it's a really, really good book about what's important. So they go over what's weighted. And so basically the weight is how important it is to get that information. And so if you guys can see this, I know it's really small, but the 2 most important parts in your sales process are your problem awareness and your solution awareness. So what is their problem? How well do you understand their problem? And then what solution are they after? And can you help them get that? If you understand that, that has the biggest weight. I typically, like somebody asked me on one of my sales calls, dude, you don't really go into condition that much. If you get those 2, you'll buy them steep enough to where you don't really even need to. Like that's the big thing that we focus on here. And I'm gonna show you guys kind of how to open people up that are stonewalling you guys in the first like 15 seconds of the call. Yeah, good. So my definition of sales is getting people to do what's in their best interest by asking thought-provoking questions that create behavioral change. So a lot of people think of sales as like pushing. And we have a really bad tendency as real estate investors to think somebody's motivated and so they're going to sell me their house at a discount, or they're not motivated and they will never sell to anybody. Like if it's motivated, I'll close it. And they're not motivated, I won't, and nobody's going to close it. The problem is how many people actually give you the motivation without like, do you think that like, for example, do you think you could get the motivation out of a seller better than your VA could?
I would think so.
Why?
I feel like I'd have more experience.
Okay, and what does that do?
Helps me get the information I need.
Right.
Yeah.
And so can we agree that sales is important, right? Your experience and your ability to get people to open up is important. Because what if your VA was just like, well, no, none of these leads are motivated. Yeah, we got 300 leads, but you know they were not. They said like none of them were motivated, so I just didn't send any of them over, right? So a lot of people think it's like black and white. They're motivated or they're not motivated. What we found, which really increased our appointments from 19% to 72%, is your ability to get them to open up in the first 30 seconds of the call to where you can figure out if there's motivation or not. Because most people won't tell you right away. I can't tell you how many people have said, no, not interested. I've been able to overcome that and still be able to close deals that's made $30,000 to $80,000 or more, actually. So this is what sales is to me. We can go to the next one, Chandler. And this is my basic framework to get there. So the first one is the connection phase. So this helps them it really kind of reminds them why they reached out to you if you're doing inbound. Now, even if they texted, even if they responded to a text, they asked for you to talk to them, right? So this will remind them of that and get them to open up about why. Now, the next thing is we need to fully understand their situation. We need to understand where they're at, how they got there, exactly what situation they're in, and we're going to identify an avatar so we know better questions to ask. The other thing I liked about the complexity is when you don't have a really dialed in sales process, you don't know where to go every time. For me, once I started implementing this process, as soon as I figure out, okay, they're a homeowner, it's like a game of chess that I know the exact moves to win. Because I know exactly what questions that always come up for homeowners, which I'm going to go into, the exact questions that always come up for investors, always come up for vacant properties. We identify an avatar and we tailor the sales process specifically towards them. Then we understand their problem. We understand what they've tried to do to fix the problem, their solution, what are they looking for, so that way they can solve that problem. We ask what's called a consequence question. So this is a huge thing that creates urgency. What happens if they don't take care of this problem and it gets worse, right? And then we go into our presentation. Once they've created the urgency enough for them to want to move on, now we present the solution. Now we are their solution when they've made a commitment to change. And this is what this looks like. So in the connection phase, so this is your first 7 seconds of the call. There's a couple of really important things that we want to emphasize here. So number one, it takes 7 seconds for someone to recognize a sales call. Has anybody ever been hung up on in the first 7 seconds of a call? Everybody? Yeah. Why do you think that is? It's because you sound like a salesperson. And so what do most salespeople do? Hey, Jimmy, it's just John. How you doing, man? What's up? Hey, they're like, who's this? Yeah, it's John. How are you, man? How's you saw the football game? And they're like, why is this guy trying to win me over? One, what it does is it lowers your status. So now all of a sudden you look like this lowly sales guy that wants something that they have. So of course they're going to say, well, dude, make me an offer if you want to buy it so bad, because you look like this lowly sales guy that's just dying to get a deal. The next thing we want to do is avoid sales language. So, hey, I'm just calling to try to see if we can make a deal or anything like that. I've heard that before, just calling to see if we can make a deal. What does that do psychologically? It puts them into a negotiating framework right off the bat, where they're like, okay, what do you think about when you're going into a deal? You think like Chris Voss, negotiations. I need to get ready. I need to get my guard up because we're about to go into a negotiation, and I can't tell them anything about my problem because they're going to use that against me, right? So we don't want to use cash offer, sell, or deal. We're going to use neutral language, like, hey, it looked like you were looking at some options to possibly move on from your house in the future, right? We never are going to assume that they're looking to sell right off the bat. We're going to get into that, but we're not going to assume it right off the bat. What this is going to do is all of those leads that are hanging up on you in the first 15 seconds, you're going to be able to at least get into their situation and then ask a problem. I'll show you guys what to do when you don't really think there's any motivation. Ask a problem to figure out if there is something there. So next slide. I'm going to go over kind of what this sounds like. I run a completely different script. So what this sounds like is something like this. I'll just say like, hey, Chandler, can you hear me? Hey, Chandler, it's just John over at Homely. It looks like you had just filled out one of our forms online and asked us to call you to go over what your home might be worth if you ever decided to like move on from that property in the future. Now notice I don't sound like a salesperson. What do they probably want to know? What their home's worth, right? They don't want to know that you're about to lowball them into an offer or try to negotiate or anything like that. That is as undeniable as it gets. So at the very least, they're going to open up into a conversation, right? I do believe in qualifying the leads, but not here. We don't know any information about them yet, and they don't know who you are. So I don't sound like a salesperson. I don't ask them how they're doing, how their day was, or anything like that. They don't care. And honestly, I don't care about how their day is yet either. So the next thing we do is we kind of increase our status a little bit. And basically, we want to know what they were looking for, right? And so what that looks like is this. Yeah, I just had a couple of minutes. I don't have too much time before my next appointment. Now, why would I say that? Anybody can tell me why I would say that. Why?
Is it because it makes it seem like you don't really need to buy their house?
Yeah, exactly. I'm busy too. I'm increasing my status right away.
It's a false time constraint.
Mm-hmm.
Shrink supply, jack up demand.
Exactly. And so what they're going to do when I say this, one, they're not going to be like, well, I only have 5 minutes, because you just overcame that objection before they gave it to you. Yeah, I don't know, man, make it quick. They're not going to give you that anymore. When they say make it quick, what they're doing is they're increasing their status and they're lowering yours. So you're like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I just just really want to see if we can put together a deal. So this is going to increase your status and make you sound really relaxed when you're going into your calls. And then we're going to lower the resistance even more and set a very non-committal expectation. So what that sounds like, yeah, and this first call is pretty basic, really. It's more for us just to find out a little bit more about the property, like the condition it's in and when or maybe why you're possibly looking to sell. Just because, the way the market's going right now, we're just not able to buy everyone's house. Now, why again would I say that? Why would I say we're not able to buy everyone's house?
All forms of reluctance.
Exactly. So now I just basically disqualified them. Now they're like, I have the offer. You guys have to remember, you guys sell solutions, right? All of you guys sell solutions. And so they, for some reason, reached out to you for, even if they just responded to a text, they want a solution that you have, which is you can help them get cash in their pocket in exchange for equity in their home, right? All of you guys can help them do that. So the frame that you have is you can help them do that, but you don't even know if you even want their house yet, right? And so that's what we do. We create scarcity. Like, hey, we don't even know if we can buy your house yet. We would need to know a little bit more. I'm not needy. I don't need you. I don't need your house. I need to know a little bit more about it just to see if it's even something that we could possibly help with. So that's our connection phase. The next thing we do is we go into our situation phase. All of you guys probably do this: bed, bath count, confirm address, all of those things. But really the important thing here is we want to identify an avatar. So that way we have that consistency in our conversations, and we don't have to worry about them going off all over in a million different directions. If you follow this process correctly, you get to the same result every time in a consistent manner. And in the same time frame, some people talk a little bit more, some people talk a little bit less, but you always know exactly where you are in the conversation. So you take out that uncertainty, right? And that's what we're looking to do in our sales process. So we identify an avatar. Go to the next one. And so basically I'll just so I have an understanding, it looks like it's 3 bed, 2 bath, showing on my end that it's got, now this has really been helpful for me. What we've been doing, we either have mortgage information from PropStream, or depending on your CRM, sometimes it pulls it over, or you don't have mortgage information. It's one of the two, right? So what do we do if we don't have mortgage information? How do we ask this? We've just been taking 60% of whatever their house is worth and just throwing that out there, and you'll be surprised. We're hitting at 100% getting the mortgage information right off the bat. Instead of asking them, do you have a mortgage? What's the balance? When you ask that, what do you typically get? That's not really, yeah, I don't need to tell you that. That's not really relevant, sales guy, right? So what we do is we say, yeah, it actually is showing there's a mortgage of $267,000. Is that still accurate? And every single time they're like, no, it's $186,000. What are you talking about? We're like, oh, I'm sorry, this damn thing doesn't update. And so we like to get the mortgage information for one reason specifically. And that's so when you go and present your offer, you're not presenting it with an exact hey, this is what we can buy your house for. It's this is how much cash we can put in your pocket. Because when you say this is what we can buy your house for, they're comparing it against the Zestimate, Realtor.com, whatever their neighbors are selling. But when you say I can put this much in your pocket, psychologically, they probably don't have much money in their bank account. And so you're putting money in their bank account. You are that solution. So we like to get the mortgage information so we can help do that. And then we ask them about the relationship with the property. Is this somewhere where you live? Is it a rental for you? What's going on with it? So that's the first thing we want to do. I'm going to move through this a little faster. These are a couple of situation questions you can ask. For the sake of this, I'm just going to stick with homeowners, right? A lot of us work with landlords and everything too. But for the sake of this, I'll go through this sales process as a homeowner. So what do we know about every homeowner that lives in the house and wants to sell? What do we know that they need to do next? Okay, exactly. So there's 2 types of people that need to move somewhere. They have somewhere or they don't, right? We can all agree on that, right? So we need to figure that out. So if they have somewhere, now we can really start asking questions around like where they're going, why they're going there, and we're creating a gap from where they are now to where they actually want to be. Now what we are is we're just the solution, the quickest way between 2 points, right? Because this is where they are now, this is where they want to be, and maybe listing on the market is like, oh, I got an offer, or actually the offer fell out, and all of these things, right? We can be the quickest line between 2 points. That's the solution that we're solving, right? Or they don't have somewhere to go. So we're going to dig into why they might be even looking to move on. Where would they go if we did end up buying the property? And so we'll go into a couple of ways that we can ask that. Now, you've got your situation. There's 2 parts of problem awareness for me. We have front-end problem awareness and then back-end problem awareness. And by the way, if this is like too over your head for now, I'm also doing sales calls and the group, so you guys can also like practice this. There's scripting and everything like that. But the first thing we need to do is we need to understand the motivation. So what type is it? Is it financial? Is it emotional? Is it kind of a combination of all of it? We need to create some gap from where they are to where they actually want to be. And then we want to find out like how long has that problem been going on. That creates even more gap. So if they're a homeowner and they've been living in a house that, you know, the kitchen is just, it's not working, they don't have an oven, the house has mold, so now they're getting like some health issues, we're going to want to find out, okay, that is probably a mixture of like financial, you know, the condition, what kind of secondary effects is that having on them? I'll use somebody that I spoke to the other day. The mold is giving her a cough. Okay, and how long has that been going on, right? Oh, it's been going on for 6 months, right? Now we're creating even more gap from where they are to where they want to be. We'll go to the next slide. So that's the first part of problem awareness is what is their type of motivation? How long has it been going on? The second part is understanding how has that impacted them personally. So why do we need to know that? Have you guys ever noticed when you get sellers to talk about how it's impacted them personally, you're way more likely to close a sale? Do you guys know why that is? Do you guys think that you make decisions off of logic? Always. Even if you're like, you know, some people are like, oh no, I'm very logical when I make decisions. Even if it's like, oh, well, I'm going to make this logical decision because it's best for the company. Okay, so why? Because if the company grows, then I'll feel better about myself. I'll make more money, right? And with that money, I'll have more security for my family. It all comes back to now your emotion is security, right? That's what you want. That's the emotional driver that's driving you. And so a lot of people stop, yeah, this guy has no motivation. It's just all logical for him. It's all numbers. There's 100% emotion behind why he's making that decision, why he's investing in the first place, and maybe he's pulling his money to go invest in something that's more secure, right? Why would he want that security? That's what we're selling now. We're selling the ability to get him more security. Everything's emotional. So that's the first thing that we need to find out in the back end of problem awareness. The second thing is why sell the property instead of just trying the next best option? Does anybody know why we would ask that?
To eliminate the option.
That's an objection that's going to come up either way. So you guys will get to the end of your call. A lot of people teach like, oh, this is the objection handling, the little one-liner objection handling techniques. If you do this process correctly, you overcome the objections before they even come up. So at the end of the call, they've already wiped out, well, they're not going to keep renting it out. They're not going to list it with a real estate agent. They're not going to go shop for other companies. You've already overcome those objections. And we'll go over a little bit like how to overcome them if they do come up at the end of the call. But if you do the process correctly, this is called objection prevention. You want to overcome them before they even come up. So we'll ask, and I'll show you guys a couple of examples of this. We can go to the next one. So let's say that there's a homeowner, right? And they told me, I'll actually use one that this one had a lot of motivation, but I'll use one that I just spoke to yesterday, or 2 days ago. So, you know, besides wanting to move into that mobile home, because I know that that's important, what was it that came up that made you want to possibly look at moving on from the house now, though? So, and I'll give you some context of that question specifically. This lady just said, yeah, I'm just looking for some options to sell, no rush, but I want to move into a mobile home, right? I want to move into something a little bit smaller. So like, oh, just downsizing, right? No motivation. I asked this question. She's like, well, my husband's also in a nursing home right now. And I don't think that they're taking care of him. So what am I going to ask from there? How do you mean by not taking care of him? Well, I overheard them on the phone and they sounded like they were kind of mistreating him. And how long has that been going on, that they've been like mistreating your husband like that? And so now I'm creating even more gap because now she's feeling it, right? Before she's like, salesperson, just get me into the mobile home. Now she's starting to feel it. She's like, wow, there's a reason this is called problem awareness. Not only are you becoming aware of their problem, but they're becoming aware of their problem. Because most of the time, the reason that people don't change is they don't actually know that they have a problem. They're trying to bury it, right? Like, you've probably had someone in your family that, I don't know, maybe is smoking cigarettes and they've been smoking cigarettes for so long and then they start getting health issues, right? But they're trying to, it's not a big deal. It's just a cough every 5 seconds and I don't sleep through the night because I'm always coughing, right? It's like they're lying to themselves about the problem. So they need to feel the problem before they can really make the decision to change. So for this lady, yeah, and I mean, look, that makes sense that you want to, move on from this house so you can get the mobile home and start taking care of your husband. But just so I can understand, I don't know, the rationale behind why you might be looking for some like outside help in selling the property, besides just wanting to move there, I think you said like a little quicker. Like, what's the main reason you're reaching out to us rather than just going the traditional route and listing the house on the market? Now notice I'm not saying it robotic. I'm saying it very like kind of confused. Like, what's the main reason that you're reaching out to us rather than just like doing what everyone else does and listing the property on the market? Now, what is she going to tell me when I ask that? All of the reasons why she wants to work with me, right? She's going to say, well, I don't have the time. I don't have the 60 to 90 days. Plus, the house is in terrible condition. I don't want people in and out of it. All of those things. And we're going to clarify and probe on each one of these, right? When you say you don't have the time, how exactly do you mean? Right? We're going to ask, we're going to clarify and probe, and every step in here, we're creating a lot more gap. And then if you can even go a layer deeper, it's like, yeah, well, that all makes sense. In this scenario, it didn't have to do it. But let's say you don't have any time urgency. But like, why take care of this like now though, right? What that's going to do is it's going to draw out even more urgency. They're going to tell you why they need to take care of it now, especially when you're pulling back. Notice with this entire process, it's kind of just pulling back. It's not necessarily like going negative like Chris Voss stuff. It's like pulling back like, yeah, I just don't really even understand. It's sounding very concerned and confused. Here we say, okay, that makes sense. How we could possibly help, right? And we're just helping at this point. We're not saying, we're not going to pitch our solution right now. We're not going to say, we can help you. We actually buy houses fast for cash. We can close in 17 days because we have no idea what they actually want to solve that problem yet. So we're not going to start pitching solutions right now. We're not going to offer rent backs. We're not going to tell them about how awesome we are and how our transaction coordinator is the best. We're going to hold off on doing that until we really fully understand them. That makes sense how we could possibly help. Let's go to the next part. And then we're going to go into what our solution awareness is, right? So every single person has there's two people that have a problem, right? People that have either tried to solve that problem or people that haven't. Can we agree on that, right? So let's say this lady, right? She's got her husband and she's being mistreated in this nursing home. So what has she tried to do so far to take care of that problem? For her, it was nothing. So what do we go into is like, what happens if they haven't tried it? It's typically some sort of mindset coaching. Sometimes we just need to help people reframe. We'll show you what's called a reframe, to help people reframe the way that they think, to make better decisions that make their lives better, right? Sure, we're going to be buying the property at a discount, but I promise you, their lives will be better after this, especially this lady. Yes, we're buying her house at a discount. Yeah, she could probably get more if she listed the property on the MLS. But what she really wants is to get her husband out of this nursing home so that way she can put him into the next property with her and she can start taking care of him as fast as possible, right? So let's say that they have tried some things. Let's say that they've spoken to other companies, right? Do they like the results that they've gotten so far? Why or why not? Maybe they've tried to list it, so they've listed themselves. We want to dig into that, and that's further preventing any objections later from coming up. Because if you skip this phase, let's say they're like, you get to it, you just give them the offer, and they say, yeah, no, I'm just going to try to list it myself again. right? Because you didn't actually dive into why they wouldn't do that. So it's really important to get into that. What's prevented them from solving this problem in the past? Again, what's changed now? Why is this more urgent for them to take care of now? And then what are they looking for? What are they looking for so they can solve the problem that they're dealing with? That's really what we need to know. That's how we solve that problem. So far, we've connected with them. We've opened them up at least to get into problem awareness, right? We've opened them up at least to get into, okay, they have a problem, right? From there, now we are getting into, okay, once we understand the problem, what have they tried to do so far to solve the problem? That's where we're at so far. What have you guys tried to do to take care of this? You're smoking. Okay, the smoking is causing coughing all night. Coughing's keeping you up at night, and now you're feeling like you're getting, I don't know, lethargic throughout the day, and it's impacting your ability to work. Right? And what have you tried to do so far? Okay, nothing. Why not? Or maybe they've gone to therapy. How did that work for them? Right? This is where we're at so far. Let's go to the next one. And then the back-end solution awareness. Okay, well then what would an ideal situation look like for you so that that way you could solve this problem? Like what specifically are you looking for, right? What would an ideal scenario look like for you? That's the first part of the back end of solution. The next part is how does life look? How is life different once this problem is solved for you? Now this is the most important part. I guarantee you if you guys go back and you listen to your sales calls, what they'll all have in common on the deals that you've closed is you've gotten people to think about their future when this problem is no longer there for them, right? Can we all agree on that? And so what I mean by that is when you start to get people, it's called future pacing. There's a term for it, future pacing. When you start to get people thinking about what their life looks like when they're no longer living in a house with mold and their husband's being mistreated and she doesn't have the hours to visit him, and she's in the mobile home where she's cooking for her husband, taking care of him, she's not dealing with the mold, it's brand new, she doesn't have to keep up with all the maintenance. She's starting to think about that. Now she's feeling it, now she's living it. She felt the problem, right? She felt all the problems. Now she can like start to see a way out, and now she's like, okay, there is a way out of this. This is possible. So how can you specifically help them get to that result? Well, I'll show you guys what that looks like. This is some solution awareness, like objection prevention. Let's say they do give you something. First thing is like what salespeople do wrong is let's say that they said, I'm going to list it with a realtor. What salespeople do wrong is they say, oh, but then you got to pay the real estate agent commission and you got to wait the 60, 90 days. And then what are they going to say? Yeah, but, right? Yeah, but I'll get more money for the house. Yeah, but, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not that motivated to sell. But when you say, yeah, that's not a bad option, I mean, what's the main reason that you don't just do that? Then they're going to tell you all of the reasons why they want to work with you. They're going to reaffirm that behavior in their head about why they want to work with you, why they're reaching out to you specifically, right? And then let's say if they have a specific problem, and I guess if you were to list it on the market and it takes 6 to 9 months, how do you plan on getting your husband out of that nursing home in the next 30 days so you can start taking care of him? And then what happens, I could show you guys a call review where I went over this. What happens if you don't get your husband out in the next 90 days and then they continue to mistreat him and his health gets even worse? So would you say it's pretty important for you to change the position that you're in now, right? We're creating more urgency. Go to the next one. I'll show you guys an example of solution awareness. So what I'll do, what that sounds like, right? I kind of went super high level. And I guess maybe just to save us some time here, hey, before you started, speaking with me, what have you tried to do so far so that way, you can stop dealing with the mold in the house and kind of the bad conditions that you're living in and actually get to that mobile home so you can not only get away from the mold, but also start taking care of your husband? What have you tried to do so far? Well, I haven't really tried anything. I really need to make a decision, but I can't. I'm just not able to. And I guess what do you feel like has prevented you from doing that in the past? Well, I'm so stressed with everything going on and money's so tight that I feel like I just can't make a decision. And then we'll do something called a reframe. Hey, are you open to me giving you a little bit of feedback on that? Have you considered that, you letting your stress kind of dictate the way that your life runs is kind of what's gotten you here in the first place. And in order to actually get into a better situation, we're going to need to kind of reframe the way that you're currently thinking. Are you okay with me saying that? Right? And you ask a seller that and they'll be like, yeah, you're right. I need to change. I can't keep letting this stress dictate the way I'm living my life. So I'm sure you guys have been there where you have a seller that's like, it's irrational, pre-foreclosure, right? But they're like, I'm just going to hold on to it, right? I'm just going to, don't worry. The auction date's in 7 days, but I'm going to figure it out. Like, I got denied for 3 loan modifications. Hey, are you open to a little bit of feedback? Have you considered that, I don't know, your thought process so far is kind of what's gotten you into this position where, the bank is about to take your home. And in order to change your situation, you're probably going to have to change the way you've been making decisions. Can we both agree on that? Are you okay with me saying that? Yeah, you're probably right. My decisions have gotten me into this spot. So that's what we call a reframe, right? And so can you walk me through what an ideal situation would look like for you so that way you can, I don't know, get out of this house, get to your next property so that way the bank doesn't end up taking all the equity that you've tried to earn, right? That's going to be what solution awareness looks like. That's an example, right? Or can you walk me through like what an ideal situation would look like for you so you could, sell this house and finally get into that new mobile home so that way you could start taking care of your husband? So they're going to start telling you, well, really, like that's where they tell you about the showings, how long they want to close in, all of those things. You ask them why that's important to them. You clarify. You build gap even more. So this is where they are. They're at the problem. This is the solution they want. And then you're just the straight line between 2 points, right? We'll go to the next one, Chandler. Ask this. It's all in the delivery. I was scared to ask this at first. This is called a consequence question. And what this does, this will help you get contracts signed that day, right? People ask me like, dude, how do you do one-call closes? It's because I do this, right? I create enough urgency to where they don't want to go talk to their attorney. They don't want to go talk to their realtor. They felt all the pain and they know that if they don't make a decision today, they may never make a decision, right? And they don't want to get off the phone with me because they know that if they get off the phone with me, they might continue living their lives the way that they've been living them. So we're going to create urgency here. So you've already outlined the problem. You've got their solution to how you solve it. Yeah, but I guess what happens if you never take care of this? You kind of just keep putting it off like you have been. I don't know, your condition ends up getting worse with the mold, and then even worse, your husband's stuck in that nursing home. Would you just settle for that, or what would you do? And they're going to say, no, I need to take care of this. Really? And then what a lot of salespeople will do, okay, well, let's take care of it for you. Not yet, right? No, I need to take care of this. I mean, you don't need to take care of this. You could continue doing what you're doing. No, I'm going to take care of this today, right? You get that commitment ahead. And then we'll ask, so how important is it for you? To take care of this so that way you can, get out of this house with the mold and then move in with your husband and start taking care of them in the next 3 weeks. How important would you say that is? Oh, it's my number one priority. I need to do this, right? We're creating urgency. We're creating. It may not have been there before. And I can tell you, the example that I'm giving you, this lady did not have it. She actually told me in the first 5 seconds of the call, I don't even know if I'm going to sell. She's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to sell. And then it came to this, right? So it's not always there. You have to create it. Let's go to the next phase. So I kind of gave you guys an example. So just so I can understand the big picture, what would happen if you don't take care of X problem and the problem gets worse? So this kills for pre-foreclosures. What would happen if you don't actually sell this property in the next 60 days and then the bank ends up taking it and you have a foreclosure on your record? How are you even going to go about getting the next place for your family? It's now they're going to really feel what's the consequence of them not taking action today. That's how you guys are creating urgency. I know I need this. I need to take care of this right now. I mean, how important would you say it is for you to actually like sell this house so that way the bank doesn't take it? It's important, right? They're telling you about how important it is. We'll go to the next phase. And then we can transition to our presentation, only then. So if you do this process correctly, you've gone through the problem, you've figured out their solution, you've taken it all away with consequence, right? So they start to feel it, right? They're like, oh, I can't wait to be in my next house and in the brand new mobile home with the brand new wood floors and taking care of my husband so he's not being mistreated anymore. And then, well, what happens if you don't do that? No, I need to do that. Okay, well, based on what you told me, what we do might actually work for you. Because you know how you said that, we're going to repeat back what they said. You have this property that's in like really bad condition and you're separated from your husband right now. And because of that, I think you said that it's causing you just a little bit of stress. And just, you're not saying that you said that you're really stressed. You're very neutral here. Just like a little bit of stress. Well, the way that we've been able to help people kind of in your exact same situation is with our cash program. Now, from here, what I can do if you feel like it would help, no, that's always their idea, right? If you feel like it would help. From here, what I could do if you feel like it would help is I could send some of this up to my finance department just to see if it is something that you would qualify for. We work with about 10,000 different investors, hedge funds, and honestly, a lot of them can pay a lot more than, let's say, like your average flipper or iBuyer. Now, before I do, I kind of wanted to confirm here. Like if I can get you, you know, the $60,000 that you said that you needed to put the down payment on the house so that way, you know, you can finally like put this moldy house behind you and get to the new place. Like, do you think that that could be the answer for you? Now, I'm still staying super neutral here, right? I'm not saying, hey, if I could get you a cash offer in 90 days, would that provide value to you, right? That's what people preach sometimes. Do you think that would provide value to you? What does that sound like? You sound like a salesman, right? Do you think that would value you? They're like, that sounds weird. Like, do you feel like that could be kind of like, I don't know, like maybe like what you're looking for at this point, right? Something really neutral. And then they should be telling you, yes, it's their idea, right? And if you did this properly, you understand how much money they need to get into their mobile home. You understand like what they need to move on from this, their time frame from doing it, all of the things that you need to do. So then you could just come back and then go to the next phase and then present the offer. Hey, it looks like we are able to help you with this, and the best way that we're able to help you, and we're going to repeat back the problem they're dealing with and then how you're going to help them. Remind them that we've helped other people in their exact same situation. Because you'll be surprised, I mean, depending on what market you're in, some people like don't like think it's like too good to be true. They're like, no, you've never seen a house as bad as mine, right? Like you've never seen, or like there's no way that you're going to be able to help me. Like you have to reaffirm, hey, we've helped people in your exact same shoes. And the way that we've been able to help people solve this problem and get the result that they're after is with this. That being said, go to the next one. And you guys maybe can recognize this. That came exactly from Chandler's script. But it looks like the best way that we are able to help you, repeat back the problem and get the result is with our, this is where we go. We'll go over 3 offers, right? Cash, putting it on the market, and then we have a manager pitch as well, which we just stole exactly from Chandler. And so the manager pitch is, he could probably teach you better, but it's like, yeah, it's basically just, hey, like I'm not really sure that 100% that it will sell for this, but I know you think it's worth that. We are willing to push it out to our network, market it. We're also able to put the property on the MLS to get the maximum amount of visibility. The only thing that we would ask is, if we come back and our numbers end up being right, that the property's worth just like a little bit less, you're at least open to having a conversation with us about like what that might look like, right? Kind of neutral, but also you're setting an expectation that you don't know it's going to sell for that. So we'll take gambles on properties like this if it's in a good area and they maybe there's only 10K a margin. I don't know what your 10K? Okay, yeah, we have the same one. Wonder why. So keep in mind, so what that would look like, and you guys will notice like I'm repeating back the problem a lot. When you hear a call, it sounds a lot more neutral, but I'm always I'm bringing that back up. So it's not like I'll be careful with how I do it and I reword it every single time. But hey, it looks like the best way that we're going to be able to help you actually get out of your current house and then get to the next mobile home so you can finally start taking care of your husband is with our cash program. And that being said, it looks like the best offer that you would get for this property is $386,500. So keep in mind that's what you'll walk away with in your pocket minus, your mortgage or prorated taxes. You're not going to pay us any commissions or realtor fees or anything like that. So do you feel like that could be kind of like the answer for you so that way you could put this behind you? And then you're asking that so you get a yes, no, or maybe, right? And then you could dig into why. So that's how we present our offer. We've done that after we've gone through the entire process, right? Let's go to the next one. I know we're kind of running short on time. So I'm going to go over really quickly these because we're running a little bit short on time. So there's only really 4 types of objections. There's money, time, value, and partner, right? So it's not enough money. No, it's not going to be done, which we don't really get. It's not the right time. If you do this right, you shouldn't get time objection after your call. Value objection is I don't really see how this is going to help me. That's the hardest one. And then partner objection. So I'm going to go over the think about it. Have you guys ever gotten a think about objection? Cool. Yeah, right? Everybody has to think about it. So go to the next one. So this is our objection handling framework. Now, when you get a think about objection, does anybody just go home and close their eyes and they're like, I gotta think, right? No, that's never the case. There's always an actual objection that's behind it. And so we call that a smokescreen. Now, the first thing you want to do is you need to acknowledge their concern. Because if you don't, what people do wrong is yeah, I just need to think about it. Well, what do you need to think about? What do you mean, dude? This is exactly what you wanted. What do you need to think about, right? Bro, I just need to think about it. Chill, right? And so we need to acknowledge and we need to disarm them. So what that sounds like is yeah, that's not a problem. I know that this is a pretty big decision, and I would probably want to think about it too. Why would we say that?
Make them feel okay with their decision.
Exactly, right? We're not going to challenge them. Exactly. It's called disarming, right? We're going to disarm them. Then we're going to clarify. Now, the way I like to do that with think about it is like this. Who wants to give me the role play for a second? All right, cool. So let's say, hey, look, next steps from here is I would send you over an agreement, kind of outlining everything we discussed, and then I would introduce you to our closing team where they can take care of you from there. Would that help you, or how would you like to proceed? So let's say you need to think about it.
Yeah, John, I need to look this over. I need to think about it.
Sure. Yeah, that's not a problem. I would actually probably say the same thing if I were in your shoes. I know it's a big decision. When's a good time in the next, 12 to 24 hours to reconnect kind of once you're done thinking this over?
I mean, honestly, I'm just not the type of person to make decisions right on the spot.
Sure.
So if you call me back in it could be 2 hours.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, 2 hours, perfect. Let's just, I'm not sure I'll randomly be available. Let me just check my calendar. So I'll check my calendar. Okay, I could do 2:30. I'll put it on there. Okay, cool. And hey, before I go, just so I'm better prepared for our next call in 2 hours, when you are kind of thinking this over, I guess, what questions do you feel you might be running through your head? Again, just so I'm kind of better prepared.
Honestly, John, it's not so much what you've said to me. Everything sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't make decisions on the spot.
That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just when you're kind of thinking things over through the next couple of hours, I guess what do you feel you might kind of the terms, what would it be specifically? So that's a price objection. That's a money objection, right? So now we're going to go over our exact same objection handling framework, which is acknowledge, okay, yeah, and I understand the price is really important. I would think the price is important too at this point. Clarify and when you say price, how exactly do you mean? Do you mean that maybe they're gonna say, well, I got another offer. They might get some more out there. Now you put the objection aside. So look, man, I guess just to see if I am being helpful here. Price aside though, do you feel this would help you accomplish your whatever. Let's go back to the lady. Do you feel like this would help you kind of like move out of this house so you can get to your mobile home?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you've told me, honestly.
Well, I guess what feels riskier to you at this point? Is it taking another like 4, 5, 6 weeks chasing down the absolute top dollar? Or is it like taking care of this now so you can finally put this behind you and then move on to your next property? So that's how you overcome price objection, right? You acknowledge it, disarm, clarify, put the objection aside. Hey, price aside, would you do it? Because they might say no. No, because I need to talk to my partner. Now you got to overcome partner objection. And at the end of it, you've overcome every single objection step by step until you get to the point to where they're like, let's do it, right? So you put it on a scale. What's riskier to them? Taking more time? Or is it the objection that they're giving you, or is it the result that they're after? If you did this process correctly, it's going to be the result, because you got them out of price-based thinking and you got them into result-based thinking, right? But the think about objection is always just a smoke screen for something else. I think that's it. Let me go. That's an example, but I just role-played it. We'll skip that. You guys can go look at it if you want. Simple do's. Hey, if you take a picture. But you guys will get this script as well. I can upload that when you guys go back. So simple do's and don'ts. Number 1 is listen. Number 2, try to help. And number 3 is use neutral language. So if you guys don't take anything away from this, you will double your sales if you just listen to people more. If you really just listen. That's the number 1 thing that salespeople don't do, is they don't listen. So learn how to lean back in your chair, stop thinking about what you're going to say, and just listen. I promise your sales will double. Next is speaking from a low status. Hey, I'm just following up with you, right? Needy, right? Just want to see if you might want to put together a deal on your property on Main Street. We're really looking to buy. Needy. So stop speaking from a low status. Stop selling to you guys do a really good job of this. This is for somebody else. So you guys don't sell to the wrong people. Like, you guys are pretty good at like knowing who your leads are and who's not. And then don't sound like a salesperson. So don't say the word following up. Don't say, would that provide value to you? Don't do any of those like cringy techniques. If you guys feel cringy saying it, I promise you they do too. And they're like, okay, this guy's weird. And then they're going to put up more resistance because they want to get you off the phone. So that's all I got for you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me?